Welcome, everyone, to the Most Accurate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my excellent co-host, the incomparable Jen Akins. Jen, how's it going, buddy?
I am doing well. A little warm in my house right now. A little warm in Colorado right now, and a little warm in my house. So a little sweaty here on the pod already. But other than that, I'm great. I'm excited to talk about guys that we don't want, which is a rarity. Usually we always talk about, guys we want. So this should be fun.
Yeah,
How are
it
you?
should be fun. I'm doing good. I'm not as sweaty, but I think sweat's okay on the podcast. I think sweat is perfectly acceptable on this on the podcast. No, doing good. We don't have a guest this week. I think we've got a guest next week, but we'll tweet about that once we get that all ironed out. But I'm excited. As Jen alluded to, we're going to talk about players that we don't want to draft. We're going to go round by round in a fantasy draft and talk about all the players in each round we are not targeting and not interested in. Now, just a little precursor. This doesn't mean that we hate the player, okay? And it doesn't even mean that we won't have this player on some fantasy rosters. It means that we don't like their ADP. We don't like where they're being drafted. We don't think it's good value. And so they're not going to be on our rosters in leagues where they're going at that pick. So we used 4for4's powerful multi-site ADP tool. It's over there at 4for4.com. It's an excellent tool to go to get an idea of where guys are going as you're planning your draft. So without further ado, because we tend to be anti-ado on this podcast, tends to be the case, let's start in that first round. Jen, who's somebody in the first round you are not leaving drafts with?
So full disclosure here. Round one was tough, right? I mean, round one is round one. There's a lot of people you want there. Brandon and I kind of, made a sheet so we knew who. So I didn't want to take who he had already put. So I had to pick somebody. So the person that I picked, like I said, full disclosure, I actually drafted this person this morning in Scott Fishbowl. I did take him in the second round, though, not the first. So I am at least adhering a bit to our criteria here. But the guy I have in the first round, according to our multi-site ADP, is Bijan Robinson. He's a rookie, sure, right? I know you love your rookie running backs, but he is the clear running back one in this offense. But the question is Arthur Smith going to use him properly? I mean, there's other people there that he has not used in a manner that we thought and expected he could use, a la Kyle Pitts, right? So, Tyler Algier is still there. He was efficient as a rookie last year. He could eat into his workload a little bit as Robinson adjusts to the NFL. I do like Bijan, obviously, or Bijan. I did draft him this morning. However, at the 1.6, 1.7 where he's going, I don't love it. So I won't have a lot of him. Probably not like in my main home league redraft. I will probably go elsewhere if I have a spot kind of in that mid first round.
How much do you think Desmond Ridder impacts Bijan Robinson? If Ridder is a good, solid starting quarterback, do you become more bullish? Or do you think it's basically just Arthur Smith? How much does he use him? Does he get those touches? Is that your main concern?
I would think if Ritter's decent, then the offense is going to be decent and they're going to be on the field longer and they're not going to be playing catch up. And so then he will have more opportunity, right? If they get behind early and they suck, they're going to have to probably air it out to try to do something in that second half. So I think if Ritter's better than as expected, then hopefully, Bijan will be better than expected as well.
That's what I'm watching. Because Ridder, the jury's out on Ridder. We don't know
what
to see out of him, right? So it's I like Ridder. I like him seems like a good kid and all that, but I am under no false illusions that he's an established product. And I
don't think anybody is really, I can't imagine that people are targeting him per se in fantasy or any of that. Who's your round one guy?
Well, speaking of questionable quarterback situations, right? Jimmy Garoppolo over there with the Raiders. Jimmy G is hurt now. So we don't know if we're staring down the gun barrel of Brian Hoyer at quarterback right now, or if it's going to be Jimmy G. But the name that pops out to me, Davante Adams at the 1.08. I love Davante Adams, talented guy. It's nothing really personal against him. But if I'm buying into somebody in the first round, I want to believe in the offense that they're a part of. And I just don't believe in that Raiders offense. Even if Jimmy G plays week one, even if he's good to go, he's missed significant time in 3 of his past 5 seasons. His last fullish season, he had 38, 10 yards, 15 games, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks. That's fine. Kind of on par with what Carr did last year. And that was a bad year for Carr. So I know Jimmy G can provide quality fantasy production from the receiver. I'm sure Davante Adams will be fine. He was the wide receiver 3 last year. I just worry about that quarterback situation, that offense in general. So when I'm buying in, I'd rather take, I don't know, Nick Chubb there, or if CeeDee Lamb's there, I'd rather take CeeDee Lamb. Those are usually the two I see there. It's usually either Lamb or Adams is there. It's usually not both.
Right.
But that's kind of what I'm looking at the 1.08. So,
yeah, I agree. I like Adams. I mean, it's tough not to like Adams. He's a consistent producer year in, year out, regardless of situation. This one's a little tough to get fired up about in the first. I know that it's tough. I like him, and I have drafted him earlier on. I drafted him before we knew Jimmy G had a hurt foot. I mean, earlier this spring.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Earlier this spring, there was really nothing happening there. They signed him and it was all good. And I drafted plenty of Davante Adams, and I've since backed off for that reason. But, if anyone's QB proof, he could be, but we don't even know who's going to be there. So I agree with you. Like I said earlier, I almost went with him. And then when I saw you did, I pivoted to Robinson.
The name I wanted to throw at you, Derrick Henry is going 1.09. I almost thought about Henry. Henry's the guy that you want to bet on him until you don't, right? You want to bet on him until he shows.
Well, I mean, we learned our lesson last season, right? Everyone faded him, and it was a mistake. So I don't know that we can fade him again. I just feel like that offense is going to be very similar as it was last year. They're going to just run him until he can't run anymore. And maybe that happens earlier than later. And so maybe he will be somewhat of a bust, as a first round pick. But as long as he's doesn't fall off that cliff, age wise and product, as long as his talent and ability does not fall off a cliff, I don't see how he doesn't have a decent season. I just think that offense is going to be very similar. They're just going to run.
This reminds me, I predicted Emmitt Smith's downfall like 6 years in a row. And he just never did.
Right. And that's where we are with Henry, and that's where we're starting to be with Kelsey. I mean, last year people were definitely this year, no. I mean, Kelsey is back on top. I don't hear a lot of the old narrative there for Kelsey. I feel like people are like, okay, we learned our lesson last year. We're drafting Kelsey. But I think Henry is one of those. And I've seen even, in the, like I said, Scott Fishbowl kicked off today, and I'm in the 12 spot chat, and there's a lot of people talking about, Henry, I just realized he's on the sheet later. So forget it. Scratch what I just said. And we'll talk about, we'll get to that later.
Talk about other Titans later on. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's go to round 2, Jen. Who's somebody in round 2 that you are not leaving drafts with?
So my round 2 person, once again, a little difficult. Round 2 is another round where, you can make a case for anybody in there. I went with Breece Hall. I'm a little bit indifferent on Hall. Like, I'm not super, super anti, but for the purpose of this pod, he is my second round bust. He's coming off an ACL tear. He is supposedly on track for week 1, but that's one of those things you never know. I think that Hall's one of those guys that will probably come on the second half of the season, which is fine if he wasn't a second round pick. But I feel like if they ease him back in and you invest that draft capital, you're missing out on a guy that's going to produce for 17 weeks, where you may get Hall may produce for 10 or 12 or whatever. So I just think a second round is a little too pricey for Hall. I just like some of the other guys there. I feel like in the second round, you can get a Chubb, you can get some of these other, running backs if you wanted that, or there's also, really good wide receivers there in the second, like Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you like a Garrett Wilson, someone like that. I just think Breece Hall is a little too risky coming back from that injury. And there's also, other running backs there. They have Michael Carter. They have, the rookie that they drafted as well. So I just, like we said earlier when we started, these are not guys we hate. I just, for a second round price tag, I'm not taking Hall.
I'm with you. This is another situation. You said you saw that I'd done Adams, and so you didn't choose Adams. When we talked about this topic, Breece Hall came up, and so I thought Breece Hall might be your pick, so I kind of pivoted away. But he was definitely the first one that I saw. Also, where he's going, the 2.10 right now. You mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's who I'm taking at that spot because it's the last receiver that I like. So once it gets past them, it gets dicey.
Totally. So who did you pick? Who did you go with?
I went with Josh Jacobs, and this is not the most analytical thing I'm gonna say. Okay, this is 40 years of me watching football and just having all these little gut feelings. It's not the most analytical thing in the world, but 340 attempts last year, career highs in games played and yards, and tied his career high in touchdowns, career high in carries. He's on the franchise tag. He might hold out. He might miss training camp. Even if he doesn't miss games, like if he holds out and misses training camp, does that increase the injury risk? And I'm already concerned about the Raiders offense in general. Guys coming off career years with like off-season scuttlebutt happening and high usage, and he's a warrior who plays hurt anyway. So he's 2.03 right now. I'd much rather take somebody else. I think you could find a high volume back in the third round. Najee Harris is an example of somebody. I know people don't like the efficiency metrics on Harris, but he's a high volume back. You can find some of those guys later. I think I'd rather go receiver. If Chubb falls to that spot, I'd rather take Nick Chubb. I'm just going to stay away from Josh Jacobs at that price tag this year.
Yeah, I think Jacobs is a lot better as a third rounder, which he is no longer and not. But I agree with you. I mean, once again, we just talked about the Raiders offense for a decent amount of time there. So he fits into that same discussion of like, what is that offense? We don't know. So I'm with you.
And those guys, they miss training camp, and then they come in, and they just end up with those soft tissue injuries. It just seems to happen a lot. And then they pull a hammy, and then they're like questionable for 3 weeks, and then they miss a game. And I'm just going to stay away from that. So in that third round, let's go on to the third round here, which kicks off the first pick in the third round, Najee Harris. Last pick in the third round is T. Higgins. In that gap, where are you? Who are you targeting as someone you're not going to draft?
So I am about to stab my co-host Brandon in the heart here.
Oh no!
I am going. I am going with Ken Walker. I know you love him. I don't hate the guy once again. However, so listen, we all know Seattle loves to establish, right? They establish the run, sure. They run. They got Zach Charbonnet in the second round of the NFL draft. I mean, that's a lot of draft capital for a running back to be used. Makes me nervous that they're going to use him as a second round NFL draft pick. I feel like it limits his ceiling. I feel like Charbonnet is likely taking a lot of that pass catching work that Walker didn't even really have last season. So while I don't dislike Walker, because I know that Pete Carroll loves to run his running backs to the ground, and he will use both of them. Like we've said a bunch on this podcast, he will also use DJ Dallas. He will also use Kenny McIntosh. They'll all be in the mix. But I do feel like as a third rounder, I can't pull the trigger there on Walker. It makes me too nervous that his ceiling is lower than others there.
So podcast over. Friendship done. That's the way. See you. No, I'm just kidding. I get it. When Ken Walker dropped to the fourth round, I thought he was a no-brainer. Now that he's an early third round, I kind of feel like that's the point where it starts to be questionable to me. Do I want to do that? Or maybe I want to take one of those top quarterbacks if they're sitting there in the early third round, or maybe, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown is still there. Maybe Devontae Smith is an option there. So I get it. I get not going. He's not on my do not draft in the third round list because I do like him and he is a home run hitter. So I think 15 touches a game from Ken Walker or 12 touches a game can still get you, at least fringe RB1 numbers, which I like, but I'm with you. I think it's very fair. Everything you said is very, very fair. So
before you give yours, was a hello to Mr. Scampers who has joined us.
Hi, Mr. Scampers. Nice to see you, or at least see your name highlight on here. Also, a little shout out to our friend Mario who sent me a nice message today. So hi to Mario.
Yes, Mario, I saw your message. It was very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for listening. I'm not taking Joe Mixon in the third round. That's who I'm not going to take.
I am not taking Joe Mixon either, but you had already put him down, so I had to. But no, I am 150% with you. I have 0 shares, and I will have 0 at the end of the summer.
Yeah, so he was the RB8 in 0.5 PPR points per game last year, right? So RB8. But if you take out that explosion he had against Carolina in week 9, you take that game out and he put up RB18 numbers in fantasy points per game. So it was one really, really big game. And then where he got like almost half of his season total touchdowns and like 18% of his yards and stuff like that. So you take that one game out, and he was pretty pedestrian last year. He's quietly entering his age 27 season. He's been a high usage player, consistent off-field issues. He's only played a full season twice. I'm out. Not interested in Joe Mixon, even though I love the offense.
Yeah, and I feel like the Bengals aren't even really interested in Joe Mixon either, but they're kind of stuck with him. So I can't get excited about him in the 3rd round. I mean, I think last year he was like the 1-2 turn. I mean, he's at least fallen, but not far enough for me.
Yeah, this is it's so funny. I've always been kind of out on Mixon, and I had like 2 years where I was in and I was wrong, and 2 years where I was out and I was wrong.
Right. No, of course. I know that happens too. I remember 2 years ago I was completely out, and then I did that one league, that one kind of Hall of Fantasy League thing with John Paulson, and we lost communication, and he took Mixon, and I was so mad. And he actually he ended up having, that was a good season. But I would have never taken him. So I'm like you. I pick the wrong ones. So I'm just, which means he's probably going to have a fantastic RB1 season, but I don't care.
Absolutely. And you realize by now that I will always have a 90s fantasy football reference when we talk about somebody, right? So
of course.
Andre Reed is that guy from my youth, my fantasy football season youth, right? I always picked him in the wrong years. He'd have a phenomenal year and then a bad year and then a phenomenal year. I always had him in the wrong years.
I wish that I remembered I don't remember my stuff like you do. Like I've been, my first year was 1996 and I can't tell you anything. Like I don't know who I had. I don't know which years I won championships. I just don't know. Like I don't remember.
I think what we're learning here, Jen, is that you just have a lot more going on in your life than I do. I think that's what
perhaps, but anyway.
All right, round 4, Jen. I'll stop derailing us without references that show how old I am.
No. Listen, first of all, I'm older than you, and
not
second
by
of
much.
All right, we're both old. So round 4, my pick of players I am not drafting may surprise you. DJ Moore.
Okay.
DJ Moore. I didn't know this about DJ Moore until. So I wrote an article that actually went live this morning on 4for4. It's sleepers and traps. Mm-hmm. And so I was searching for a trap, and I ended up researching and I discovered DJ Moore, and I discovered that I don't like him this morning.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I was kind of indifferent heading in, so far this offseason. I took him here and there and without any real analysis. But after diving in today, I realized I don't like him. I don't want him. No. So basically, as we all know, this is no secret, right? Chicago was dead last in pass attempts last year. I think it was 377, which was significantly lower than any other team in the NFL. Fields I'm going to throw you with a stat that is not normally a me stat, but I'm going to throw it at you. Fields was 27th in completion rate over expected last season.
Oh, look at you.
Yes, 27th. Everyone's talking about this leap. Sure, he may make a leap, but what if he doesn't, right? I mean, last year, his best wide receiver was Darnell Mooney, who was wide receiver 64 in half PPR points per game. That was his best receiver. Obviously, DJ Moore, more talented than Mooney. DJ Moore, is quarterback proof to a certain extent. But, I mean, right now, he's like being drafted as wide receiver 13. Or I'm sorry, wide receiver 18. Can't read my handwriting. But yeah, so he's being drafted as a wide receiver 2, and I just feel like he's more of a wide receiver 3. Like, like we were saying, like it's not that I hate the guy. I just round 4, there's just better guys I'd rather take there. I just don't trust that Bears offense yet, and I understand it's different than the Bears offense from last year or even the year before. But is it? Like I just don't. I feel like in round 4, I'd rather get someone that's more of a sure thing, if you will.
There's safer options available. I'm with you. I love DJ Moore as a player. Loved him coming out of Maryland. I think he's been stuck in quarterback purgatory his entire career.
And he's done the best. He's had, I think, his 5 years. He's had 2 wide receiver 2 seasons, 2 wide receiver 3, and then a wide receiver 5, all with bad quarterback situations. So I get it. He's Allen Robinson light or Allen Robinson 2.0 or whatever you want to say, right? When it comes to quarterbacks,
Robinson's had significantly better quarterbacks than.
True.
At least Blake Bortles was basically running a run and shoot.
Listen, Blake Bortles. Look, give me some Blake Bortles in London all day. If I could have that as my fantasy, if you could just pick that, I'm going to draft Blake Bortles, but only in London, that would be fantastic. But no, DJ Moore, it's one of those things where he's not at least he's not being drafted as a wide receiver 1, right? I mean, people are at least lowering expectations a bit, but to me, I feel like he's more in wide receiver 3 territory than wide receiver 2. So I would like him a couple rounds later.
I'm with you completely. I'm with you, and I'm going to double down on your Bears, Justin Fields. Yeah, Justin Fields is my 4th round pick.
There we go. See, okay.
Yeah, he could be a league winner, right? Justin Fields absolutely could be a league winner. He rushed for 1,100. I don't have the number, 1,100 yards or something last year. A lot of rushing yards last year. Was great fantasy wise, but including the wonderful stat that you brought up, he's still developing as a passer, and he may not take that leap. It's very possible. He doesn't show any ability to progress through reads right now.
Right.
He
holds on to the ball too long, right?
Yeah, he's scattershot with his arm. He does. He holds the ball way too long. It's like Ryan Tannehill back there. There's a little Dolphin shade there. But he could be a league winner. He's a legit QB1 potential. Could wind up being the QB1. But when you're drafting him in the 4th round, you're expecting that production.
Right.
And I'm not on board for that. 8th round, 9th round, sure, give me that risk. I'm okay with that, right? But you're taking him over Justin Herbert, right? And then 3 rounds later, you can get Dak Prescott. I'm not into it. If I'm taking a quarterback, it's going to be Allen or Mahomes or Hurts in the early 3rd. Outside of that, I'm waiting. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fields he's very divisive this year because I feel like there's a lot of people that really believe in that leap and feel like with the rushing upside, and if he takes that leap, he's going to be fantastic. But then there's the what if, right? What if he doesn't? And what if we're stuck with exactly like we had last year, which wasn't horrible. I don't remember where he finished last year, but based on a 4th rounder, I would much rather get my wide receiver 2, my RB2, whatever at that point than Fields.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop just for a moment to say hi to Duncan. Thanks for stopping in, Duncan.
Hey, Duncan.
Duncan has the 3rd pick in a 10-team full PPR. Chase, Cup, or Hill is what Duncan is assuming, saying that CMC and Jefferson are going to go 1 and 2. Wants to go wide receiver. To me, it's definitely Jamar Chase at the number 3. What do you think, Jen?
I'd go Cup.
You'd go Cup?
I hate to disagree with you, but those, I don't know why. I feel like Cup is going to explode. I mean, not that he hasn't exploded the last 2 years, because he has, but I just feel like he's a better bet than Chase, only because I feel like in that offense, I feel like he is the guy. He is the main guy. I feel like Higgins is there. And you also have a better run game too, with the Bengals. So I think if you want straight up PPR, target monster, I would go Cup, but I feel like they're very close. I mean, it's not like you're not going to go wrong with Chase, but I think I like both of those guys over Hill, and for the similar reason, whereas there's Waddle there and there's questions with, Tua as well. So, Scampers agrees with me. Love it.
You know what? You may have just convinced me. To be fair, I tend to be a little bit of a what have you done for me lately kind of a person. I don't like that I'm that way, but I kind of default that.
Well, I think we all do to a certain extent. I mean,
it is hard to overlook the dude won the Triple Crown in receiving a year ago. So it's tough to. And
I understand there is trepidation when it comes to Stafford, right? Stafford was rough last year. He was not good, and he had injuries, and he left. So that part is a little scary. But
that offense in general, we don't. Maybe it might be great.
But Cup was still fine last year. I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't remember where he finished.
Till he got hurt. Yeah, till he got hurt. So.
Right. So yeah.
I'm gonna shift. I'm gonna start with quarterback since I in the 5th round, since I made all this argument. I made all this argument about Justin Fields.
Okay.
I made all this argument about Fields. I'm just going to cut right into the 5th round and just say Deshaun Watson is my guy for all the same reasons I said Justin Fields. With Watson, 5th round, you're expecting him to be Deshaun Watson if you take him in the 5th round.
Right.
And so far, we haven't seen that he is. So he was terrible when he took over with the Browns. Now, he'll probably be fine, right? I'm sure he will be. on the field. Off the field, we're not talking about. But
I mean, that's the thing. It's just I don't care. Like, I know we're not supposed to talk about that stuff, but like, it's just tough to root for the guy. I can't.
I'm in the same boat.
Just can't do it. Like, and I understand. I do have the ability to separate fantasy from real life, and I do have the ability to draft players that have done horrible things. I've done it. I will do it, but I don't know. That Deshaun Watson's like a different level with all of it's just there's so like.
The way it is for me is with the guys I don't want to root for, right? I usually there's a point where I'll draft them.
Of course, no.
But I usually won't pay up to do it. It's kind of where I'm at. So
right, like I mean, you can't tell. Like I've drafted Tyreek Hill. I'm going to continue to draft Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
but for some reason with Watson, it just makes it. I don't know. It just.
We have to pay up for him, and he's risky.
Well,
like,
true.
It's not like it's a bona fide. This guy's definitely gonna rock a QB1 season. Like, who knows, right? So 5th round, again, you're taking him around Justin Herbert ahead of Dak Prescott, guys like that you know are going to produce at least to some extent.
I'd rather wait and take like a Geno or Aaron Rodgers or whatever at that point, especially for redraft, because you can always, if it's a 1 QB league, like there's no reason to invest in Watson there.
Yeah. So that's my pick for the 5th round. Who are you ignoring in the 5th?
My 5th round pick for not drafting is Dameon Pierce. Yet another. I think I've gone like all running backs except DJ Moore. But yes, Dameon Pierce is my guy. He had a very good rookie season. I'm not going to discount that. He did. They added Devin Singletary, and they paid him pretty well. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, like I said earlier with Zach Charbonnet, I feel like they're going to use him. I think Dameon Pierce is still going to be their RB1. I do. But I also feel like we have a whole new staff, a new regime, if you will, for the Texans, and we don't really know what they're going to do. Like nothing's guaranteed there as far as workload. So I feel like once we're in that round, I'd rather wait and take James Conner or Rashid White later. Like I feel like why, I don't know. I just don't know that Dameon Pierce is going to be that much better than either of those guys as far as their volume and their output. So I would rather spend that draft capital in round 5 on someone that I just feel like is a little bit better. Maybe someone with more, I don't know. And I don't have a problem with Dameon Pierce as an actual player. I think he's fine. He is coming off an ankle injury as well, right? So I don't know. He's just not someone that I'm loving there in round 5. I feel like Devin Singletary and I know you like Devin Singletary as well. I feel like he may cut in a little more than people realize. Like it may be a 1A, 1B, like, more than a full on 1A, 1B, if that makes sense.
No, I'm with you. And, DeMeco Ryans comes over there from that San Francisco culture, right, like where you have a running back by committee situation. And sure, we've had some, we've mined some excellent fantasy production from the running back position under Kyle Shanahan, but we also don't know who it's going to be often. And I think you're very correct. I think we're going to see both these guys. So a 5th round pick for Dameon Pierce, I'm kind of with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about let's shift over to the 6th round. Where are you at in the 6th round? Because I took a look at the show sheet and I'm upset, Jen. I'm upset.
I knew you would be. This was a very hard round for me. I actually kind of liked most of the players there, so I feel like it was difficult, and I had to just pick somebody. So I went with Dak Prescott. I know you like Dak, and I know a lot of people like Dak, and it doesn't mean that I'm not going to take him because I probably will in other places, in other rounds and whatnot. But I feel like we just talked about, right? In a straight up normal like redraft league with 1 QB, I'm not taking a QB unless I take, say, Allen or Mahomes or Hurts. Like I'm just not even gonna. I'm just waiting. Mm-hmm. That's just how I am. I will absolutely wait till the end. So it's not that I dislike Dak. I just dislike him in the 6th. I feel like I'd rather wait and take Cousins, Tua, Daniel Jones, Geno, even Rodgers, and I would rather grab like a wide receiver 3 or someone in that realm in round 6. So it's not a knock on Dak himself. I think he's going to be fine. I just don't think that you need to. I don't want to say waste a pick, but I just don't think you need to spend a 6th round, draft capital on a quarterback there.
It's fair. I like Dak. Dak is somebody who in the 6th. That's kind of the point where I'm willing to start looking at that guy. He was the QB 8 while he played last year. If you just look at the weeks that he started last year, he was the QB8, and that's, QB10 off the board in round 6. I feel like that's about where it starts to become value to me. But I'm not going to argue with you if you want to wait and take Cousins around later or Rodgers later. Like, I'm not going to argue with that.
I just feel like, I don't know. I'm one of those people. I've developed the whole QB. I play QB chicken in my home league because it's actually part of the fun. I mean,
fun.
I wait and wait and wait. And I'm like, okay, because a lot of people in my league will go early. Like Allen will go in the first, Hurts will probably go in the first this year, and then, so I just feel like I prefer to wait, and I'd rather scoop up value and depth in round 6 than just take Dak. And he may fall. I mean, that's just based on our multi-site ADP, and it's July, right? Yep. So once we get to the end of August, early September, Dak may be an 8th rounder, which is much more digestible for me.
Very possible. Absolutely. So Jamie Parag, hi, thanks for joining us. Agrees with you, likes Dak more in the 8th round. So
same with Mr. Scampers. We're like me and Mr. Scampers.
That's right. Scampers and Jen. I will say I had a hard time with the 6th round too. I kind of like everybody there. You got some cool receivers there.
It was a tough one.
Yeah, Christian Kirk's there. I went with Evan Engram. I don't really hate Engram, but in the 6th round, I'm probably not looking at tight end. I'm probably going to wait a couple more rounds.
Right. Yeah.
Take Freiermuth or take one of those guys later.
Had you not taken Engram, I probably would have picked him. Yeah. I just feel like he was kind of the obvious standout in that round, which is why I went with Dak. But like you said, there's a lot of good wide receivers in there, and I liked that round. That's why it was so hard for me. And I was like, I know Brandon's going to kill me that I'm going to pick Dak, but he's really the only other guy in here that I could even argue for.
I'm just saying my Dak Prescott, Ken Walker teams are very upset with you. I'm just saying.
Sorry.
But it's no. We're it's all fun. The 6th round was a tough one. It's funny. There's a few rounds. There's actually a couple rounds later too. There's one specifically that shockingly was a round I had a hard time picking someone, but we'll get to that. The 7th round, we agree on the 7th round.
We are samesies in this one. I just couldn't. There was nobody else, and I know we both feel passionately about this one, so I was like, I figured I'd let you talk about it, and I would just say, yep, same.
Yeah, let's just Kadarius Toney in the 7th round. Look, I get the talent, and he's probably going to have a couple really great spike weeks in Kansas City. I don't want him on my roster. I don't want to have to try to figure out whether or not to start him. I don't want to have to move him in and out of IR when he pulls a hammy. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Kansas City's a mess to figure out outside of Travis Kelce, obviously. Toney hasn't been able to stay healthy, and there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and there's also no mouths to feed. It's a weird situation. And now you got DeAndre Hopkins rumors going to Kansas City. Apparently, he's been waiting out the other offers that he's gotten because he's waiting for Kansas City to make some salary cap magic and give him a real offer.
That would be interesting.
That would kill the rest of the receivers for me, though.
But that's good because I don't draft any of them anyway. So I have no Toney, I have no Skyy Moore, I have no MVS. Like, I have none of them. So if Hopkins were to go there, it'd be like, all right.
You know who I kind of have a little bit of? I'm kind of taking Richie James at the end of drafts.
I can get behind that. Like in best ball, yes. Redraft, no. But
even in redraft, I've got him as a last pick storing on the back of as like my wide receiver 6.
Really?
Like I've occasionally, because I don't know, he kind of produced in spots last year and he's got talent. I don't know. I'm not taking Richie James to the bank or anything like that, but I do think that was kind of an underrated signing. Like, I think he's going to have a role. I think he's going to get snaps there. So we'll see what happens. So Mr. Scampers talks about Justin Ross.
Yeah, I've definitely taken some Justin Ross too, but I haven't taken any of the other guys. I just can't. Well, I can't go down the MVS road and I can't go down the Skyy Moore. Skyy Moore actually is one of mine in the later rounds here. Yeah. So we'll get to him again.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Skyy Moore. I'm not drafting Skyy Moore. So that's kind of where I am on Skyy Moore. So I think we're there. Let's go to the 8th round here. Who's your 8th round do not draft?
Well, I mean, I might as well just pile on the Bears because we already have been this entire episode. So
there's a theme with offenses here.
My 8th rounder is Cole Kmet.
Oh, nice.
Well, first of all, I'm either early or late. So I don't like that tight end dead zone, and that's where he's living, right? In the 8th round, I don't want anything to do with tight end there. We rarely get a decent return on investment for those tight ends in those rounds. And Cole Kmet is not going to be that guy this year. I'm sorry. He had a decent year last year. He did. But, for the same reasons as DJ Moore I talked about earlier, I just don't see the production there. Like, even if Fields takes, any kind of leap, I don't see it happening for Kmet, especially as an 8th rounder. I'll totally wait for, Chiga Conquo or even Sam Laporta. I mean, I'll wait till the bare end, especially in redraft, because you're going to end up streaming anyway because they all suck.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I can't even argue with you on this. Like, it's just Cole Kmet was a very good option there. It just the tight ends at this spot. It's just not what I'm taking a tight end. I'm just not going to do it. I completely agree with you. Now there are more mouths to feed in an offense. There are. We're not going to get a lot of passing.
Yeah. No, Mr. Scamper says, I didn't realize Robert Tonyan was in Chicago also. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how I went this whole offseason without realizing that, but I don't know if that moves the needle for me on either way, but I'm still out on Kmet, and I'm out on.
I think Bob Tonyan's going to at least catch 3 goal line touchdown passes that might have gone Kmet's way.
You know what? Now I may grab some Tonyan in the final round in best ball. I don't know how I missed that whole. I don't know how. I didn't know, but I think now I'm going to have to throw him in the mix in round 18.
Very fun. Very fun. In the 8th round, I'm not taking Michael Thomas. Like Michael Thomas, I honestly just don't want him on my roster. Like I understand that he's talented or was talented in 2019, but I'm just not doing it again. I don't care what they say. He's already hobbled. Like they're already saying that he's taking limited reps and camp's not going on right now, but when like pre-camp was going on, I'm not using up a roster spot. Definitely not in the 8th round. There are other receivers.
Yeah, you don't want to make that decision. You don't want to look at his freaking name every week and be like, I can't, like, do I put him in? Do I start him this week? They're playing the so-and-so. I don't like the mental gymnastics of Michael Thomas is not anything that I want to deal with.
Yeah, I'm out on Michael. I'm tired of waiting at this point. And now, like, he's probably not even the best receiver on that roster because Chris Olave is so good. So
right, and you know how I feel. Rashid Shaheed was my pound the table last week.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm all about him way later than Thomas. So
surprised he's going in the 8th round. I wonder if once we get past mocks and into some more real drafts, I wonder if he'll drop.
This is definitely early ADP. I mean, we're early days. We're July. What is today? The 10th, 11th, whatever today is.
But I'll be honest with you, even if he's the 15th round, I'm probably not taking Michael Thomas.
Yeah, for redraft, me either.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Done.
Yeah.
So, how about round 9, Jen?
Well, round 9, I'm surprised to see him as a 9th rounder. To be honest with you, when I saw it, it was a very easy pull for me, and that is Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah, there's no way that I'm going to look at that name every week on my roster and make a decision of whether to put him in or not. There's just too many mouths to feed the thing is, it's not even that there's that many mouths to feed in an offense, but in that particular offense as it is. Like it's already a limited receiving situation. Then you've got, Bateman is, allegedly healthy. Then you have Zay Flowers, who's new and fresh. You have Mark Andrews, who's now healthy. And then you have OBJ, who hasn't played since the 2021 Super Bowl. It's just not. He's a huge hard pass for me. Even in the 9th, even in the 12th, even in the 14th. It's not happening.
Yeah, he's the one that stands out to me, too, in the 9th round. He's one that I predicted you would select.
Of course. Well, yeah. I mean, I was actually, when I looked at yours, I was like, oh, he didn't pick him. Sweet.
Well, you and I have had enough conversations about OBJ and the Baltimore offense in general that I feel like I have a pretty good read on where you stand on most of the Baltimore pass catchers. So that's where we are here. I went with Jacoby Myers for the same reason as
I like that one,
else.
too.
I like Myers, but he hasn't been super productive when he's been the supposed wide receiver 1 in the offense. He's been kind of a frustrating will he or won't he type of fantasy player. So now he goes over to the Raiders with some really questionable quarterback situation with Davante Adams already on the roster. Hunter Renfrow is there, and I don't think he's just like Myers plays better out of the slot. And now you got Renfrow there. They're going to push him outside to play that Z receiver. And I don't know. I'm just out on Jacoby Myers in the early 9th round too, like fringe 9th round. There's other players there I'd rather take.
I see a theme here with us, Brandon. It's the anti-Raider /Bear show.
That's how it
without
goes.
Meaning to be.
Jamie, not buying into it. So.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it. The podathon. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for all of that. Very nice. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely supporting the podathon and Jen working hard out there with
and I see you guys talking a little SFB. Brandon, I think is not in it this year. So
I'm not in Scott Fishbowl this year.
I guess it won't be, but I'll always talk about Scott Fishbowl. I'm awaiting. Actually, let me look real quick if I'm up. I'm not yet. I'm 3 picks away from the 3-1, and I'm like, I want to be able to pick tonight. It's going to drive me crazy if I have to sleep on that pick. Anyway, back to the pod. Where are we here? We just finished the 9th. Okay.
So I'll be honest, I don't have like in-depth notes on the rest of my guys. I just have like a couple little comments. So.
Well, once you get farther down, it's kind of like okay,
but we get double digits,
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw this out here. My rounds 10 and 11 are actually together.
Okay.
I didn't realize they were. I thought they were in the same round, and so I put them both down. And then I realized after that one was actually in round 11. He's like the 11-1, and I didn't realize it. So I'm just going to do them both, and then we can go back and do yours.
That's fair.
I'm going. And listen, I'm a Dolphin fan, but both Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, I'm out. Even if Dalvin Cook doesn't go there, I think I am out in redraft because I don't want to have to make that decision this year. Yep. It's painful. So I just think that's literally all I wrote down. I don't want to have to make that decision in redraft. I think both of them may be decent, or they both might not, and they might cannibalize each other, and they both may get hurt, or one may get hurt. It's just coming into redraft. There's just other places I'm going to go rather than pick those two. So Wilson right now is in the 10th, and I think Mostert is in 11-1, but to me, they're hand in hand. I don't want either.
And Devonta Chain is there. Like so he's going to have a role. I'm with you. It's going to be hard in best ball. I'm definitely taking Mostert in that area occasionally, but in redraft, you're right. I don't want to make that lineup decision. I just absolutely don't want to.
It's painful. And I believe, it's just tough to have. And I think last year I did that to myself with Myles Gaskin and everything else. And I just can't do that again with the Dolphins because it's tough. You don't really know. And if they add Dalvin Cook, then it's 1,000% out.
Yeah, then it's a wasted pick. And that's a very possible thing to do. I mean, the rumors are Dalvin Cook was almost offended by the Miami Dolphins contract offer. So we'll see.
So, that might not happen. I saw, who did I see today? Was it the Jets? No, I saw someone else today that I was like, wait a minute, where'd that come from? It was another team that I hadn't seen. But it could have just been a random. Yeah.
There's not really a team out there that he won't just mess something up. Like it's.
Oh yeah, there's really nowhere that he's right now going to slide in. We've just come too far in the offseason, ADP and whatnot, that there aren't a lot of places that he could just slide in and not screw everything up.
I want to do this somewhere I'm already not buying in. So let's put him in Cincinnati or something like that because we're already not taking Mixon.
We could put him in Buffalo with his brother, and they could just kind of hang out, and then we could just Damian Harris to me is a throwaway anyway. So.
Yeah, I'm not drafting Damian Harris.
Me either. So okay, here we go.
We fixed it. There you go.
You heard it here first. We fixed it. Dalvin Cook to the Bills. He gets to play with his brother, and they both have a great workload, and we're all happy.
I love it. Make it happen, NFL. Make it happen. So round 10 for me, I have 3 comments. Number 1, I'm not taking a defense here. With that, that's just.
I skipped all the defenses when I saw that. I wanted to. I was like, should I just do one for fun? But
it's not my pick. But I'm just saying, defense for me is round 14 out of 15. Kicker is round 15 out of 15. Like that's if I have to take one, right? So. Otherwise, I'll drop someone later and pick up a kicker and stream for week 1. Like that's usually what I end up doing. So, the second comment I have to say is every single year we hope for a Bengals tight end to come out and wow us. Every year we do this, right? And then the third thing I want to say is every year we hope for Irv Smith Jr. to come out and bust out and become a phenomenal.
We get the perfect storm of both,
right? Yeah. So 10th round, I'm just not going to take Irv Smith. That's just not.
Yes.
I wish him well. I hope he does.
Perfect storm of not going to happen. Yeah. People are super into Irv Smith. I see a lot of the hype, and I'm just like, no. Yeah.
I mean, talented dude.
He is, but he can't stay healthy, and it's just so much hope. Remember when he first came? We're like, oh, his dad, and he's and
I wrote an article about him like 2 years ago.
Oh, so did I.
This is the breakout tight end you need. Then he got hurt in training camp or something. So
yes, he did, and then he got hurt last year, and then if the team, the Bengals are going to be good, right? Yeah. So if you want, but I just can't. I can't seem to. Yeah, I'm not going to do that either.
So I'm gonna say. Jamie Parog, who's in the chat right now, I apologize for my next pick. I just want to apologize to you ahead of time. My 11th round is Roschon Johnson. I like the talent, right? I don't like the landing spot. I think that the Bears are not an offense that I want to buy a lot into. We've discussed that a lot. And then the other thing is, for all the nasty things that we're saying about Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman, that they're not going to commit to you, and if they wanted to commit to you, they wouldn't have added others. I mean, you say the same thing for Roschon Johnson, right? Like, apparently this is going to be a multi-back system. And I think that they saw Khalil Herbert thrive next to David Montgomery in limited touches, being kind of a pass catcher, kind of a change of pace guy, a full-on backup. And I think they said who complements Khalil Herbert the best and brought in Deontay Foreman. So I think we're going to see Herbert start, Foreman, a heavy dose of Foreman on first and second down. And I think Roschon Johnson's going to be depth. Now, do I think maybe he develops into a long-term excellent starter? Sure. Like, I think he's a talented guy. But this year, I think it's going to be the Herbert and Foreman show on an offense that's going to struggle to move the ball.
I don't say I disagree, but I do feel like I could sprinkle in some Johnson for depth, right? Mm-hmm. Rookie running backs come on late. If you have enough room on your bench and you want to grab him and then ride him out so that people don't snack him off waivers in week 8 when someone else gets hurt in front of him and he ends up getting a bigger role. But right out of the gate, he's not going to produce. But if you're in round 11 at that point, it's not a horrible value there for me. But I do understand where you're coming from too.
And certainly attrition is a thing, right?
Always.
Certainly, attrition is a running back thing for that. So I get it. But I'm probably targeting your Isaiah Hodginses, players like that is probably what I'm doing instead of loading up my bench with guys like Roschon Johnson.
Right. I do want to say one thing. The Mr. Scampers just talked about Hayden Hurst, and I actually tweeted about it the other day because I just can't. Similar to Irv Smith, right? Everyone's waiting for the Carolina tight ends. Like, I understand it's a brand new situation there, but I just can't. It's like every year, A with Hayden Hurst and B with Carolina. It's a very similar to the Irv Smith situation. Hayden Hurst had one good year in Atlanta, but since then he really hasn't done much. Carolina tight ends never produce. I know it's a totally different team, but I'm still going to throw it out there because I am. And so you've got this combination of and people all of a sudden are on this Hayden Hurst train. And for me, I'm not there. I'd rather take Taysom Hill, honestly, who's going to get some gadgetry than boring Hayden Hurst with Carolina. We don't even know what they have there. We don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. He may be a stud, but I just don't see it. So I respectfully, Mr. Scampers, agree, and I cannot get on the Hayden Hurst train this year. Many people are, though. I see it leaving the station. I see it chugging along through Twitter. I am not getting on.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're going to see a lot like what we saw in Indianapolis with Frank Reich, like a frustrating blend of tight ends that sometimes pop and sometimes don't, and I don't want to make the lineup decision on it. So I think because Tommy Treble's a good, talented kid, and Ian Thomas is a great blocker, so he's going to get snaps. So I don't know, but let's move to the 12th round. This one, I'm going to say the 12th round was really hard for me. I kind of like everyone in the 12th round.
Oh, really? I found
at least a little.
So. I found one very easily for me.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to continue, I guess, with the rookie running backs here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Chase Brown.
Chase Brown, okay.
Chase Brown is my round 12 guy. I get it. He's a rookie. People are excited about him. Joe Mixon, when Chase Brown was drafted, people were fired up because they weren't sure if Joe Mixon was even going to still be there in Cincinnati. But early reports of camp and all of that have said that it's Travion Williams' job. He's winning the RB2 job. So Chase Brown's fine, but I feel like in the 12th round, there's better value there than someone that might be the RB3 on a team that has a ton of other talented players on it, a la Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, the rest of those guys. So Chase Brown, round 12, a little rich for me. I'd rather take Travion Williams with my last pick.
Yeah, I'm on board for that. And it came down to Chase Brown or Tyjae Spears for me, who I chose, Tyjae Spears.
Which I was going to talk about earlier, and then I stopped myself. So go for it.
Same thing. We just keep waiting for a backup Titans running back to blow up and to do good, and we just keep waiting, and it doesn't happen. And while he may win the backup job, and he may be great, and he might be a mid-season waiver wire wonder, I don't want to clog up my roster with him at this point.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, so I'm in in Scott Fishbowl, I'm in the 12 spot chat, and there were some guys today. Someone was debating Henry, and someone was going on and on about he was going to lose touches to Tajay Spears. And I just, I didn't comment. I just sat there and laughed because I'm like, Darrington Evans was going to be the next big thing. And then, it's like every year there's another guy in there that's supposed to take touches away from Derrick Henry, and it just doesn't happen. So Tajay Spears is fine. I just wouldn't look at him as a threat to Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. If you want to stick him on your bench for later, stash him, but I wouldn't look at him as any kind of threat.
Yeah. And this is often when I find myself drafting, when I'm actually taking a quarterback, is this spot. Because you can get Daniel Jones, you can get Tua, and Tua's a target for me, not just because I'm a Dolphins fan, but when he plays, he's really good in fantasy. And so I'm taking Tua. He's pretty cheap at this point.
Absolutely. And this is around when I do that, and a tight end. Like both of those are going to be in the last couple rounds prior to kicker and defense. Is when I start to look at that. And, to me, Tajay Spears is not that guy. I feel like there's other running backs in that round, like a Jerome Ford. Give me him all day over Tajay Spears. I just feel like the opportunity is there for Ford way more so.
Yeah. Jamie Peroga asked about Tyler Conklin or Jeremy Ruckert with your last pick as a Rodgers tight end. Are you targeting one of the Jets tight ends?
I'm not targeting them, but I don't hate them. I think that it's tough to know which one. I know there's been some hype with Ruckert. I've been seeing a little bit of hype. Conklin, I've kind of fallen for him in the past, so that recency bias has me leaning towards Ruckert. But I don't dislike either of them. He likes a tight end. I mean, Jets tight ends have not been fantastic in recent years, but this wasn't an Aaron Rodgers team. So I don't think that either of them is a bad pick with your last pick at all.
Yeah. And my answer is K. Dotton. That's
you pronounced it wrong again, dude. What's your deal?
I said pierogi. I thought
pierogi, like the food.
Oh, so he actually says pierogi. Okay. All right. It's just that's P-E-R-O-G. I didn't get the E.
I have to say, I love a pierogi.
I do enjoy a pierogi. I do enjoy a good pierogi. So sorry about that, Jamie. I will do my best. So maybe I'll just say Jamie. Maybe that's it.
Well, no, I think now you've got it. I think I think you're there with pierogi. I think we're there.
Oh, okay. All right. So round 13. I think you might be mad at me. Can I do mine first for round 13?
I guess, yeah.
So
I am gonna be mad at you. I saw it. Listen, I'm not mad at you. You're wrong.
I'm just wrong. That's how it's
wrong.
So I like the idea of Tim Patrick. I'm just worried he's never gonna graduate to more than the idea of Tim Patrick, and there's too many receivers there. So I'm not clogging my roster with him.
And I understand that. I absolutely do. I understand it being skittish on the Denver offense as a whole. I absolutely get it. I would like to direct you. Maybe after this, you can go Google. James Palmer from the NFL Network has come out and said, literally, he said, Tim Patrick is the best player in the Broncos locker room right now. Not wide receiver, player.
Yeah.
And that is like a universally discussed thing amongst the beat writers and amongst everything. He's been hurt. When he wasn't hurt, he was fantastic. So he is healthy now. Sean Payton is there. Tim Patrick is so cheap. Like, you can't not draft him there. I mean, I just feel like, I like it. I'm sorry, I'm too bit. Yeah, Benjamin Albright, who, I'm actually in a league with him. But yes, Tim Patrick has had a great camp. He is healthy. He was great before he got hurt.
Great before he got hurt.
Yes. Great. I don't have the numbers because he wasn't my pick, so I didn't do the research.
Best season, 742 yards and 6 touchdowns.
As the wide receiver 3 or 4 on that team? That's not bad.
3, yeah. Wide receiver 3, yeah.
Considering the volume that he got, that's pretty darn good there, Brandon.
Not bad. I just feel like I guess you're right. I guess in the 13th round, if you get that out of it, I guess that's okay.
I'm not telling you that you need to draft him in the 5th round as your wide receiver 3.
I guess that's fair. I'm just done. We hear this every year. He's the best player. He's the best receiver. We all love him. It all comes out of Denver, and everybody gets excited. And then he just meh. So.
Okay. Well, listen. Last year he was hurt, and last year was just a disaster on all fronts. If Russell Wilson does not return to any form of Russell Wilson, then it doesn't matter. They're all going to stink again. So, but I feel like Sean Payton, hopefully will do something. I don't know. I can't. Yeah, I like Tim Patrick though, and I feel like he's value appropriate.
Okay, who's your round 13?
So my round 13, I would say, speaking of Jets, but he's not even there anymore. My round 13 is Elijah Moore, who I don't dislike as a player. He's fine at his ADP. I'm just not sold on that offense pass wise. We talked about Deshaun Watson earlier. Just not sold on it. He's fine. Round 13. Like, I don't hate him. I had to pick someone in this round, so that's who I picked because he's just someone I'm not drafting, but I'm not like adamantly like, oh, I can't stand him. I hate him. And these are the reasons. He's just not somebody that I'm targeting. I just feel like that offense is very run heavy as it is. We have Nick Chubb, you have Amari Cooper, and then you have Donovan Peoples-Jones. And where does that really leave Elijah Moore?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I will say, I'm looking at this. This was kind of a tough round too, because most of the players in this round are pretty appropriately priced. Like, I wanted to, going into this exercise, I was like, okay, what round am I picking Anthony Richardson as my pick? And then I'm like, oh, he's a 13th round pick in redraft.
Right.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. So
yeah, and I think if we were to do this exercise later, I think it would be different. But where we are in July and with the amount of where the ADP is for redrafts, like if we were using underdog ADP, it would be different.
Yeah.
But we're using redraft multi-site ADP. So a lot of it is different than what we would. A lot of these guys are going much earlier in underdog.
Now watch Richardson's draft. Watch his ADP as we learn that Gardner Minshew ends up starting week 1. I just, because I'm predicting that to happen. So.
It's not out of the realm of possibility at all. We don't know what's going to happen there.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so I've got let's see, week 14 or round 14, week 14.
We can just wow, I didn't realize how long it's. We're almost at an hour, Brandon.
There's no liquor in here, I promise. Even though I'm stumbling over everything I say at this point, so
we can go very swiftly over mine because it's Skyy Moore, and we already talked about all that. So Skyy Moore, not taking any of those guys. So yeah, that's mine. Who's yours?
Tyler Higbee. I just had to. In all fairness, if you're gonna take a tight end in round 14 and it's Tyler Higbee, I don't really care. But I don't know if what that offense is gonna be this year. I don't like Tyler Higbee because he's frustrating to start every week.
You just don't like him. You never have.
I'm out. It's because
I'm out. You've been out for years.
Yeah. It's because I spent half a season starting him over Pat Freiermuth, and it was the wrong decision every week, and it was so hard for me to stop doing it. So I'm just never going to make that decision again, Jen. That's so.
Listen, I am not. I've been there. I have guys that are very similar that are on my own personal. I'm out, and people, many people will be taking Tyler Higbee. He is not sexy, but he is consistent. And if you just want a boring tight end to throw in there, Higbee's your guy.
And he was
I understand that he's not yours.
Yeah, he was like the tight end 9. I don't even have really strong justification there. So
you don't have to. I mean, that's part of fantasy football is the emotional aspect. We can't all take it out of it. It's there, and it will continue to be there. So there are guys that you're just like, you know what? I just don't like him. He screwed me once, and I'm done.
Absolutely,
and that's okay.
So what's round 15? Round 15.
My round 15 is Michael Gallup.
Okay,
very similar. I'm just out. I went way too heavily invested in him a couple years ago. It did not pan out. I feel like he might be just a guy after all that, right? I don't think he's really that great. Brandon Cooks is there now. He's fine as a 15th rounder if you want him. I'm not like super, I'm not similar to Elijah Moore. Like, I'm not anti, and you could talk yourself into a story where he outperforms his round 15 ADP for sure, but he's just not for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. He's burnt us in the past, and like you said, Brandon Cooks is there now. So I think that's extremely fair.
Who also burnt us in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I went with Zeke Elliott. I'm seeing him get drafted, and I get it. But I just think he's another roster space guy. I'd rather go with an upside player because I think even if he signs somewhere, he's going to vulture a couple touchdowns and be a frustrating lineup decision. I'd rather take someone that's either like a backup running back who's could be a starter or somebody with a lot more upside or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will get drafted probably in a lot of home leagues just because people might think that he's going to all of a sudden be plugged in and be great. But there aren't a lot of teams and a lot of scenarios where I think he will be. So
Yep.
And yes, Jamie, I would rather have Jaden Reed later than Gallup too. So
me too. Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Jen. Always a pleasure. Do you have any final thoughts or plugs before we go?
No, I do not. Do I have any? I don't know.
Well, you write 5 articles a day, Jen. So
no, I only had one today, and it was massive though. It was like 2,800 words. So it is there. It's Sleepers and Traps. So that dropped this morning. Other than that, I don't have any other articles. Yeah, just kind of, Scott Fishbowl started today, so that's kind of been on the brain. We do have, for those listening that don't know, for the first time this year, we actually have Scott Fishbowl rankings in our rankings. So like in the drop down where you select like PPR, half PPR, whatever, there's an SFB. So if anyone cares about using John's projections and the SFB scoring, it's in there. And we haven't had that before, so that's kind of cool.
Awesome. Yeah, go and check that out. Read everything that Jen did. Listeners, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Jen Akins NFL and at 2 Guys Brandon. Thanks so much for checking us out, and have a good day.